Good morning. Well, today we are out at a little village on the River Stour, and it's called Shapwick. It's actually spelt with a W, S-H-A-P-W, so it's Shapwick, but pronounced Shapwick. And we're going to do a walk, I guess based partly on, certainly on the River Stour. We're certainly following the River Stour for a chunk of the walk, and we're going to take in an abbey, in fact maybe a couple of abbeys in fact on our route, as well as a couple of mills, earthworks, meadows, lots of things. And it promises to be a great walk. It is an absolutely beautiful day, as you have seen already. But before we get out on our walk, I'm just going to take you inside the church for a quick look round Shapwick Church. So Shapwick is a lovely little village that sits on the River Stour. Can't see it very well, but you see the River Stour, a couple of spots here, just the other side of the vegetation. But it sits on a very important Roman road, as was, and it used to go through here, more or less where these trees are, and there was a ford which went across the River Stour. The Roman road actually went between Old Sarum and Durnovaria. So it was a major route between two very large settlements. To you and I, that would be a Roman road between Salisbury and Dorchester. And it would have come right through here, where I'm walking, and would have crossed the river. But I can't actually get to the river to see if the ford that they used to get over, there's any evidence of it, because it's not on public footpath, and as you can see, the bank is all overgrown. So it's a lovely village of thatched cottages, well, mainly thatched cottages I think. And yeah, its name, the name Shapwick, actually comes from Old English words that mean sheep farm. So I think Shap is, or I don't know how you pronounce it in the old spelling, but means sheep. And I presume Wick, W-I-C, I think it was, I assume means farm. And I don't know that for certain. But yes, a lovely village, lovely cottages and a church and a pub as well, the Anchor. which is a very nice pub. I could almost stop and get a coffee, but since I've only just started walking, I think I might save that till later, because we'll come back here obviously at the end. So there's an interesting story told about Shapwick. It goes back to the early 1700s. And I like my stories and my anecdotal things about these villages and old parts of Dorset. But the story goes that a fishmonger was coming through here with a cart full of fish and sea stuff, and a crab fell off the back of the cart, and the villagers came out and saw it. Never seen a crab before, so they were all gathered around this crab, poking at it, thinking it was some monster or devil or something, because they'd never seen one before. When the fishmonger realised that he'd lost a crab somehow, and turned round and came back into the village to look for it, discovered all these people gathered around it, not knowing what it was, and he promptly picked it up, put it back on his cart and went on his way. And then he spread the story about how simple the folk were that lived in Shapwick, that didn't even recognise a crab. I don't know how true that is, but I just like these anecdotal stories. I think it's great. It's all part of our history. Right, glorious trees. Is that laburnum and Copper Beach, I think, against that blue sky. Isn't that awesome? There's another wonderful building. Look at that lovely house. So we've left the village now, and we are heading out across the water meadows of the River Stour, and we're actually following one of our long distance routes, which is the Stour Valley Way. It's not a route I've ever walked from end to end. I've walked bits of it. In fact, if it were known as the Stour Way and you could walk the riverbanks all the way, I would probably walk it. But unfortunately it's the Stour Valley Way, and it follows the valley rather than the river all the time. Parts of it you can walk the riverbank, parts of it you have to detour inland and even through urban areas. So it's not one I've ever done. I think there are some lovely parts to it, and this is one of them. And we'll be heading out, once we get down the end of this track, we're going to head out across the water meadows near the Stour and partly along its banks. Some lovely clear water there. That's not the River Stour, incidentally. It's one of the small tributaries. Stour is straight ahead of us. And I have to say, when I walked it last week, I think it was, the Stour didn't look anything like as clean or clear as that. It'd be interesting to see what it looks like today. So we're on open meadows now. And isn't it beautiful? Amazing sky, clear blue, bright sunshine, and the meadows beside the Stour, and it's warm. What could be better? I say that every walk, I think. What could be better? They're all wonderful, and this is an amazing morning to be out. So here is the River Stour. It's actually quite a wide river in places, quite shallow in places as well. I've kayaked parts of the Stour, and there are places you can't get through. You just have to get off or push it along with your feet or something. In the summer, that is, not in the winter. So go down and have a quick look at the water. Well, it's not as clear as the little stream was back there, but it's actually, I have seen it worse. Not actually flowing quite so fast as it was once when I came here. It's lovely and peaceful though, I have to say. Were I a fisherman, I think I'd enjoy this. Well, that was amazingly clear, that cuckoo. It was just across the river in the tree the other side. Couldn't actually see it, but very clear and distinct. It's not the first cuckoo of spring. I think they've been around a while, but lovely to hear. Oh, there's another one up in front. Don't know if the microphone will pick that up, but there's another one in the trees up in front of me. Interesting. Even the swans are sheltering today from the sun. This is how warm it is. They're all up underneath the trees in the shade. So we've nearly reached the end point for the River Stour. Across the way in the distance, the bridge you can see is Crawford Bridge. I'm not actually going to cross that on the way out, I'm going to cross it on the way back. But it's a lovely bridge crossing the Stour. There's a few old bridges that go across the Stour like that, and that's one of them, and I'll tell you about that one later. So the route we're taking today is what I call a balloon route. Strange name, not technical. It's just that if you look at the route on the map, it looks like a balloon on a string. I'll put the map up anyway at this point so that you can follow along and walk it should you wish to walk it. So the first part of the out section and the last part of the back section follow the same paths across the water meadows. So that's the string, and the middle part is the balloon, and that's a circuit that we go round in the middle. So hence why I call it a balloon route. Some people don't like walking out and back the same way. I don't mind that, to be honest. You go in a different direction, obviously. The light will be different because it'll be evening, not morning. see different things, and just with this kind of scenery, I just don't mind, to be honest. It's just amazing. It's a beautiful day, fantastic to be out here. Anyway, that's the route, a balloon route. And in fact, we are well into the balloon. We've come off the string already, well into the balloon, and we've reached, or reaching, Tarrant Crawford. And we're going to drop down off the hill here into a dip where there is a really beautiful church, St Mary the Virgin, Tarrant Crawford, and it was previously part of an abbey. In fact, the abbey was down in this valley to the left. There is nothing left of it, although in amongst the trees there are farm buildings, but they are not, I don't think they're anything to do with the abbey. The abbey was founded in 1186, but it became a Cistercian nunnery, in fact, in the 13th century. As I say, there is apparently, and I've often wondered when I walk this, but apparently there's no remains of it other than this beautiful little church, which we're going to come to in a moment. And this is the church, St Mary the Virgin at Tarrant Crawford. Such a beautiful little church. And this one has a graveyard that's left for wildlife, which I also really like. It's actually not currently used. It's in the hands of the church's conservation trust. Let's see if we can go in. What it's most known for are the wall paintings, 13th and 14th century wall paintings, and they are really well preserved. Hope it comes out on the film okay. So there is a story apparently behind these. The story is that we have 3 living people and 3 dead people. The 3 living are either kings or princes, and they're out hawking. In fact, you can just see make out the hawk, I think, which he's got in his hand. And they come across 3 skeletons, 1, 2, 3 skeletons of people who have died, and they apparently warn the 3 kings and princes of the futility of earthly position, status, rank, etc. So that's the story behind the lower level. And also more stories. I think the top level, I think, is to do with St. Margaret. But some of them are not very decipherable. But considering that's 13th, 14th century, so that's 700 years, they are in pretty amazing condition. And it's a beautiful chapel. I like it here. It's really peaceful. Oh, clever. So that is the beautiful St. Mary the Virgin Church at Tarrant Crawford. Lovely church. And look at this tree as well in the graveyard. Look at the colour of that. I believe it's a type of hawthorn. Amazing. And this, of course, is where the valley gets its name, and all the villages, including Tarrant Crawford, because this is the River Tarrant. And there's quite a few Tarrant villages which follow the river. So we're about to reach the next in the line of Tarrant villages. We're still following the River Tarrant, and in fact this one is actually the last in the line, and this is Tarrant Keynston. And the reason it's the last in the line is because the River Tarrant, which we've been following, actually drains into the River Stour at this point. Now, Tarrant Keynston is probably a hamlet, I think, more than a village. There's not an awful lot here in terms of dwellings. The main building, in fact, is a mill. You can actually see through the trees over there. We'll go past it in a minute. It's Keynston Mill. I'm interested to see what they've done with that, because it was a perfumery a number of years ago. They bought it and set it up to grow flowers in a lovely garden up here, and they turned the flowers into perfumes. But that was actually sold not that long ago, so I'm not sure whether the new owners have continued that, or whether they've done something else with it. Well, the signs are still up, but everything's blocked up and says private, so it's obviously not continued. There's a lovely garden was down there, but not anymore by the looks. That's a lovely scene. So we will continue on our way, and there's at least 2 mills coming up in the next section of this walk. This one is Keynston Mill, and the mill workings are still in there, but it's actually a private dwelling now. But it's very lovely. I mean, I love the wisteria, the way that's growing up the side of this building. I think it's amazing in the spring. I really like wisteria. But I think the mill is this end. You could use the door, really. You have to duck your head. Because I think the mill race comes in here. In fact, you can hear it rushing through down there. It's a lovely old building, but we have to leave it behind because we're going to go across the Stour and across the water meadows again, but a different part. At this point, obviously the Stour breaks into smaller rivers that rejoin. I guess it's because there's mills both sides. There's Keynston Mill behind us, and there's Spetisbury Mill in front of us through these trees. So I guess the mill leat has caused kind of the river to split into 3 different rivers almost. There's some really lovely paths on this walk. There's another part of the Stour. And Spetisbury Mill across the other side. It's lovely. It's another cuckoo. So this is all part of Spetisbury Mill, and I think they do accommodation, so I think you can stay. And now they've got a lovely garden down through there, which we can't access of course, because the footpath goes across here. But this is, I love this footpath. This is really interesting, I find, because it's on this raised walkway. So the Spetisbury Mill garden is in there, I think. But yes, on this lovely raised walkway. It drops down both sides. And I love it. I think it's fantastic. And it's got this interesting railing. I thought when I first walked this, I thought these railings must be collapsing, but I've actually come to think that this is probably a pack horse bridge, and that they used to bring some kind of pack animal, donkeys or something would it be, down here, maybe with panniers on, or bags of grain or something. I don't know, that's what I'm assuming, and that's why the railings lean outwards. But I like it because I think the light that comes through these trees is amazing, and this garden is just beautiful. So we're making our way now up onto the next section of this balloon that we're walking around. Actually heading up onto an old railway line. It's the Somerset and Dorset Joint Stock Railway Company line, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And you hear lots of noise, it's because there's a school on my left. So you can hear all the children in the playground, and there's also a percussion lesson going on. So we're now on the Somerset and Dorset Railway track bed, as was. It was actually, the railway itself was created, I think, back in 1850s, 1860s, and it was an amalgamation of two other railways that were existing. Unsurprisingly, one was Somerset, the other was Dorset, hence Somerset and Dorset Joint Stock Railway Company, also known as the S&D, also known as the Slow and Dirty in its day. It's probably, in many ways, there's a very romantic enjoyment or love for this railway, including by me. I think it's an awesome railway. In its day, it always struggled in its day, to be truthful, because it went over some high ground, some steep gradients, which meant some of the trains had to be double-headed. That is, they had to have two engines on the front just in order to get them to the top of the rise, which obviously increased costs, of course, doing that. And there was a single track railway line in there as well, which was a nuisance. So it kind of always struggled against the odds, and it kind of began to fail, I suppose, in the 1950s, when various offshoot lines started to close down. But the main line continued. It was actually, of course, our dear friend or perhaps not so dear friend, Beeching, who axed the line in the 1960s. And so we lost the railway, but in its heyday it was quite a busy line, and it actually linked Bournemouth with Bath, so it would have been a really good line were it still open. But yeah, it's always struggled against the odds, so it ran for, I guess, 100 years or so before it finally closed. But I guess the benefit for us is that we get some nice paths to walk. Sadly, a lot of it was kind of lost to kind of development and sold off, that sort of thing. There is a movement to try and recreate the whole line as a footpath, and parts of it like this are perfectly good to walk, and great, and long lengths of it in fact, but not all of it. But there is a move, and they're trying to link up sections as much as possible to create what will effectively be, I suppose, a long distance footpath from Bath down to Bournemouth. And it'd be great if they succeed in doing that. So what the Somerset and Dorset Trailway does have is a number of stations that are still there, and one of them is just up here, and this one is Spetisbury Station, and there's a love for this station in the area, and they're gradually kind of restoring it. We'll go up onto one of the platforms. A nice little garden in, and a pond. I love the signal. Picnic tables. Even got a trainlet. And the main buildings are over the other side. So these would have been the main station buildings along here. Presumably the ticket office, waiting room. While you wait for the train. Will there be one along soon, do you think? Could be a long wait. But it is a station with a view over the top of the trees, and the village of Spetisbury is actually just down the other side. Drops down, it's below this. It's a kind of linear village, long and thin along the main road predominantly. But we'll see more of that later. So we've left Spetisbury Station, and indeed the Somerset and Dorset Trailway, and we're heading for something even older. And it's at the end of this path, and it's called Spetisbury Rings. And Spetisbury Rings is a hill fort. And since it's 2:30 gone, I think it's a good place to stop for some lunch. We've already got awesome views, even though we're still not on the ramparts yet. They are up here. So Spetisbury Rings dates from the Iron Age and is also known as Crawford Castle. It's a fairly simple affair. In fact, I can actually only see one ring. Well, obviously some of them may have got lost through time, but once you reach this point, the kind of highest point of the rings, you get some awesome views. And down the bottom there is Spetisbury, the village of Spetisbury. We'll keep going round. This is the middle of Spetisbury Rings, which is left wild, of course, which is even better. So this is a good point to stop for lunch. Enjoy the view. What an amazing lunch spot. It is absolutely beautiful up here. It's warm, there is a slight breeze but nothing drastic. The birds are singing all around. We have nothing but views 360 degrees. Totally awesome that was. Spetisbury Rings. A great place for lunch. Now I need to continue walking, so I'm going to go over or continue round this ring, and then I shall drop back down to the Somerset and Dorset Trailway again in a minute, and then we've almost completed our balloon and be back on the string. But just look at this, this is just so amazing. I find it hard to take it in, really, the beauty. Birds singing, spring, everything coming out in flower and leaf. It's just, I just can't express what I feel when I walk in these places. I wish I was a better poet and I could write poetry to sum this up, but how can you? Words is just not enough. The video's not enough. You've just got to be here. Fantastic. So this is the end of the ring. And I've got to go down a steep drop. I think you can bypass this, but I'm going down there. I should say incidentally that when the railway was put through, and it's just the other side of these trees and dropped down, obviously they carved up the land around here and they discovered 2 mass graves going way back, of course, and there were 80 burials in those 2 mass graves. So yes, very sad, very historic place. I'm going to try and get down off here without going down on the rear end. I always think this is amusing. I've come off the castle at Spetisbury Rings. Come back the rest of the trailway and come out onto the road at Louse Lane. Just wonder if there are any up there. So we've now got to cross what is a fairly busy road to drop down to Crawford Bridge, which we saw earlier. And here we are, Crawford Bridge. Let's take a detour down here. So that we can get a look at the bridge. It's one of Dorset's ancient bridges across the Stour. Fly fishermen working away in the middle of the river. You can see that's fairly shallow here because it's wide. And the swans are out in force again. And I always think one of the lovely views is down this way. It's really lovely down there. Really nice to have one of those houses looking out onto the river, I have to say, although the mozzies might be a bit of a pain in the evening. Can't get a terribly good view of the bridge from this side, but you can see they've got cutwaters in. That's these pointy bits. They're only on this side because that's where the that's where the river runs down from, and the idea is to divide the river, cut the water, in order to reduce the amount of erosion on the bridge from water. That is a lovely bit of river. And we have another one here. This is where the river splits. That's another fine view of those lovely trees lining. It's like an avenue of trees on the river. It's just beautiful. Well, we've completed our loop, and we're now back on the string of the balloon again, heading back to our start point. Back onto our lovely waterside meadow again. Such a beautiful path to walk this is. I love meadows. A whole lot of flowers in this meadow. Some buttercups, one or two other bits, but it's more grass, so I'm guessing it's probably a hay meadow, but I don't mind that. I like grass anyway, actually. I find grass really interesting and appealing somehow. I'm still following the river. Amazing how much it meanders, and you notice it when you follow the riverbank, because the official footpath actually goes straight across the middle of this meadow. I've chosen to go around the outside of it so that I can follow the River Stour, and it's been absolutely lovely. So it's not a, I suppose it's a kind of, you can see it's a path. I guess it's a kind of permissive path because it's not the official footpath, but obviously they allow it, which is great. And it's still beautiful. You can see we're coming up into Shapwick again now, because we've got the first cottage over there. So it's not too much farther to go before we get back to the start. So we are back in Shapwick. I'm just walking through the village again, and I might just see if the Anchor Inn is still doing coffees. Couldn't have one this morning because I haven't done any walking, had I? So I can now. Right, looks like it's open. Time for a coffee. Well, cheers. They'd run out of coffee, sadly, so I just had to make do with the beer. I've earned it anyway. Yeah, it's been an awesome day's walking. I absolutely loved it, of course, as always. We've walked the whole balloon. I've got to the end of the string now, so I'm back to the starting point. And I need to refresh and replenish my my liquid levels, shall we say, because I do tend to get a bit dehydrated when I walk, even if I'm carrying a bladder. I think of filming, and that makes it awkward because I tend to forget to drink as much as I should. I'm focusing on filming all the time, but yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic day. I don't know what the distance was, 8 or 9 miles in the end. The route that I put up earlier is the kind of basic route. As always, I detour off of that. So, but I just put up the basic route, and you can detour as you wish, as I do. So anyway, I'm going to sign the video off now. So thanks so much for coming with me. It's been a fantastic day as always. I've loved it, and hope you've enjoyed it too. But for now, this is me, the Dorset Rambler, saying until next time. Cheers. So this is a quiet country lane, but it's amazing how much traffic there is on it when you're trying to do a video or trying to sign off the video from my walk. It's taken about 6 or 7 takes, I think. Cheers anyway.